Okay, so I go through all of that, you know, trying to get my medicine ball to act right so I can sit down. So I went through all of that. I'm at home with my son after we mutually agreed to part ways, and I was just happy about that. I was happy to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I ain't got to drop my son off to be with nobody else all day. I ain't got to wake up early, sit in no traffic. Like, at this point, I done did enough accounting to where I can do this shit myself. Like, I'm going to start my own thing. I'm going to start Winston Accounting and Business Solutions, and I could still be at home with my baby. Way back in 2008. And so my approach was, I'm just going to do what I know. I know what I'm capable of, and I can get paid for that. And then I said, what else am I good at, or what else do I know? So I started selling Avon. Not at all a salesman. Anybody will tell you that an accountant and a salesman are like oil and water. We not out there like that. But I knew enough about Avon to where I could sell it to somebody, because growing up, my mama had us decked out in Avon jewelry, bracelets, brooches, earrings, necklaces, the bubble bath, the lotion, the nail polish. I mean, all of that. So I had used it. I knew that they were good products, and I knew I had enough expertise in it as a consumer to be able to sell it to other people. And I'm like, I don't even have to work hard, because most of the people will find the Avon book and it sells itself. So if I can get paid and I really don't have to do all that selling, then I'm going to do that too. And again, I'm still at home with my baby. I ain't got to go clock in with nobody. I can do it the way I want to do it. But I was still like passively sending off my resume, and I would get calls and do phone interviews, but it was just so slow. And I was just like, I ain't got time, because this Avon and this accounting is going good. I had 3 clients. I did I created financial projections for a nonprofit who was filing paperwork with the IRS. What else? I had a bookkeeping client. I had a client, I helped her build out her whole business plan. We set up an accounting system for her. And then I was starting to meet like friends online. This is when Twitter was popping, when Hootsuite and all that was popping. So it wasn't no Instagram. It wasn't no Facebook. MySpace was just, going out the door. And you could meet a lot of people on Twitter. And so you kind of built your relationships that way. And then I started to see like, wow, it's a lot of moms or a lot of Black women leaving their corporate jobs and starting to do their own thing. And that's how I started getting connected and realizing like, wow, I'm not the only person who feels this way. And so things are going well. And then I get that phone call. Hey, Nicole, this is, I forget his name, from GE. How are you? I'm good. How are you? And so he starts talking about, he found my resume. They had this open job for a senior accountant, and he wanted to know if I was interested in applying. And immediately my mind is like, hell no. No, not doing it. But to him, I'm like, sure. And he starts talking. And so I didn't really catch a lot of what he was saying, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I was a manager at my last job. Like, I'm not about to take no step down to no senior. And I done got to the point where I'm doing this on my own. So, and it's going well. And I'm home with my baby. Like, no, I'm not about to do this. So this is what I'm thinking to myself the whole time this recruiter is talking. And so I jumped back to the conversation with him, and he's just telling me all these different things. And asked me to apply for the role. And so I said, okay. So we went through that whole process. And I'm like, I'm going to apply, but whatever. I'm not taking no step back. Like, I'm not doing that. And so the process kept moving forward. I applied for the role. They called me for the interview. I did this very intimidating panel interview. And I want to say it was 4 people on the panel. And I walked out. I mean, even when I went in, I was like, suit fresh, shoes shined up. I mean, I was ready. But I was just so like flushed in that interview. Like, damn, I was not expecting all this smoke and pressure from this interview. And so I left like, all right, well, I completely just blew that. So let me just go back home and work on my businesses. And then a couple of days later, I get the call like, hey, I want to offer you the position, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Again, I'm still thinking in my head, like, I was a manager, though. Like, I'm not about to step into no senior accountant job. Like, I'm not about to do that. So she keeps talking, and we talk about the money and all of that. And then, of course, the conversation comes about the commute, because this is Atlanta. And, you know, you do understand we're about, you know, it's going to be a long commute and blah, blah, blah. I was just like, okay, like, I'll take it, because one of my goals was to go work for a big company. And I mean, at this point in 2009, GE was it. Like, GE was it to me. Like, the epitome of like a world-class company. Like, I loved everything about them. I kind of grew into this affinity for GE. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see how this gonna go. So totally different experience from my prior positions, because I'm a mom now. So I have a baby that I have to take care of and put first. I'm about to make this long commute. I mean, before this, if I had a long commute, I was taking like the van pool, the commuter bus. Like, I was not doing the driving, even if I had to go a long distance. And so now I'm sitting in this traffic, and now I'm walking into this company where I feel like, okay, some of the things I set out to do in my career, I think I can do here. So let me take this a little more seriously than I took my other jobs. And then the other part of me is like, well, this is a senior accountant job, and I was a manager, so this job should be easy. And all throughout the interview process, they kept saying, you know, just to learn and understand securitization and what it really is, it's going to take about 6 to 9 months to really learn this job. And so, again, I'm sitting here in my head like, okay, let's get through this, because I was a manager. Like, I got this. This is nothing. Month end, financial analysis, nothing. Let's go, is what I'm thinking to myself. So, first day, when I sit with a colleague and she starts showing me all this stuff and these journal entries and like booking this daily cash and, making sure we pay attention to the daily cash file, and so that the formulas update and the waterfalls and what's due to the servicer and this trust, the securitized trust over here and the securitized trust over here and the receivables and the collateral. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is not like what I've been doing. Like, what is this? And I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to take about 6 to 9 months. So I had to unlearn some things and retrain my brain to do this. And to say, first of all, titles are nothing. Okay, just because you're an accounting manager does not mean you know everything. And when I became a manager, I was, let me think, 3 or 4 years out of school. So you still wet behind the ears professionally. I mean, there's so much that you don't know. So I had to humble myself and really get my mind right and say, okay, if I'm going to do this at this big company, let's do it. And I started learning. I started paying attention. I started asking questions when things didn't make sense. And I mean, at this point, I wanted to know, like, okay, my baby's at daycare. I'm leaving my baby. I'm making this long ass drive. I got to make it worth it, So let me put the seatbelt on and hit the gas and go. So I learned everything I could possibly learn about securitization, to the point where we were, as a department, trying to improve our processes and make sure everything was documented. So we were creating this guide, or this securitization 101. Where's my water? And so me and my team put that guide together, just the who, what, where, when, why, and how of securitization, why companies do it, what it does in terms of being an alternate source of funding, having servicers and debt covenants and all these different monthly metrics. It was a cool process once I learned it, and then once I was able to see how securitization works just in business every day. I mean, credit cards are securitized, mortgages, car loans, student loans. A lot of things are a part of this process that we probably wouldn't even think about every day. So it was a cool process. I really enjoyed the job a lot. And there were things that I mean, no job is perfect. No job is perfect. But it's important to find out what you're willing to compromise when it comes to an employer and employee situation. Because in my case, there was a lot of great things and benefits and perks to working for GE. But then there were also things that I didn't like. But the things that I didn't like were not at a point where it was disrupting me from doing what I needed to do. And so, because there were so many other great things to offset the things that I didn't like, that was a place that I felt like I could be there for a while. And I mean, the other thing was, I mean, I had my coattail pulled a lot, like a lot. I had my coattail pulled a lot because I'm coming in the door into this company and trying to build my brand in this global conglomerate of a company, and really trying to elevate and let my name be known and let people understand who I was. And I got my coattail pulled a lot. I think I've probably said that a bunch of times, but it happened a bunch of times. So I just want to put that out there. But they were pulled with love most of the time. And I appreciate those now. So to be in a company like that, I mean, just highly matrix organization, so many levels of management and subsidiaries and all these different things going on. I mean, I really just, I grew up professionally there. And I was like, okay, yeah, my son is at daycare and I got this long drive and I'm trying to navigate my way through this big ass company. But I mean, y'all sending Cadillac to pick a girl up from the airport when I'm traveling, and you're going to pay for me to go on this excursion to learn how to be a leader, to be an effective leader, not just a boss, not just a manager, but how to be a leader of people. And, I'm taking a selfie with the chairman and being in a room with President Obama's right-hand woman. Just all these different experiences through affinity networks and symposiums and just the learning and development that happened internally. It was an amazing experience. And I made that long ass drive 2-3 hours in a day with a baby in the back seat for about 5 years because I loved my job. I loved what I was learning and how I was growing. And it was an experience that I would not have gotten any closer to my house. I lived in a part of town, or I worked in a part of town where a lot of the big companies set up shop there. So if you wanted to get in with a good company, good job, good pay, good benefits, with all these corporate perks of working for these big companies, that's where you had to be. And sometimes I felt bad leaving up out of there because I had to be on the road at a certain time to make this long drive to get back to my son because he was going to daycare by the house, which was an hour away. And it was a struggle. And so, I mean, I learned how to make good decisions in business, but also just with my time and trying to figure out how to make my life work inside and outside my home. And so I said, I have to take him out of this school, out of this daycare that he's in, and I have to make sure that he's close to me so that if I'm working late, I can just go down the street and grab him. And if we got to sit in the traffic, fine. At least he's in the back seat, sleeping or eating or listening to some Barney music. So those were the types of decisions I started to make. And again, it was because I loved my job and I loved where my career was going and how it was progressing. So I share all that because it was not the sexiest road to get there. And just because it doesn't look pretty right now, or just because it's not sparkly and shiny when it's initially presented to you, does not mean that you don't have the opportunity to shape it into what you want it to be. A lot of the things I learned at GE was because I was vocal about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to learn, but also because that was encouraged. The feedback was encouraged from employees. Be vocal about your career goals. And that's how you get the exposure that you want and that you need. I didn't get every single promotion that I applied for, but I had a chance to work on projects implementing accounting standards, FAS 167 in particular, which is something that I had no clue about. I mean, I was doing the accounting every day, but I didn't understand all the teams who were involved in this project and what it really took when FASB issues new accounting pronouncements and new standards, what it really takes to implement those from a people perspective. I mean, you're pulling people out of their day jobs to do something totally that's probably outside of what they do every day, because it's a requirement and there are deadlines and there are budgets and there are just so many things that has to happen behind the scenes. So I never had the opportunity to do that anywhere else. And so those types of things, working on just different projects, creating an entire guidance document that was done by three of us, 3 people in securitization, and we presented it to the entire department, really showing our expertise in such a niche area of accounting. There are people who know accounting, but who don't understand securitization or who don't understand derivatives. I mean, there's a lot of things in accounting that I know at a high level, but I can't go 3, 4, 5 layers deep and explain it on a granular level. And that's fine. Because it's not always about knowing. the answer. Sometimes it's about just having the gall to go find out and knowing where to get the information. So that's another thing. Another point I want to make is if you don't know something, that's all the motivation you need to go find out. A lot of people who are successful got to where they are by failing forward, failing fast, learning from that. But you got to keep going. And so I wanted to share all that because a lot of the things that I have dealt with in my career did not come with instructions. There was a lot of baptism by fire and really understanding how somebody like me, a Black girl from Cincinnati who wants to work at a big company, like how do you make that transition and how do you know what to do and what not to do? Are you supposed to abide by the corporate rules or not? Especially when they're not even a part of who you really are as an authentic person. So there's a lot of that to be dealt with. It's called politics. So as you move around in your career, you have to think beyond just a title, beyond just an address, beyond just a salary, but what is the mutual benefit, right? If you get the offer, we know what your benefit is to the company, enough for them to extend you an offer, but what are you going to get in return? And the things that they are, the talents that they see in you, make sure that you bring those to the forefront and don't feel like you don't owe it to yourself to go in there and be the absolute best. And I find that when I did get promoted or when I did work on these big projects, it was because somebody saw what I was doing or something that I've done and I was asked. So don't do certain things with an expectation of they need to recognize me or somebody to shout you out. Do what you know needs to be done. And do it well. Do it better than anybody else, because I guarantee you are being watched. And that's not always, that usually comes with a negative connotation. That's not always a bad thing. You are being watched. And when I do the career convos on social media, the hashtag career convos, people ask me questions about what they should be doing, or they want to move into a certain job, or they want to get promoted, or how can they be a better leader? And people ask me for career advice all the time. And this is why I like to share it, because number one, I reflect on my career, because a lot of the things that people ask me are things that more than likely I've dealt with, or it's a situation that I've been close to, either dealing with it as an employee or dealing with it as a manager of people. And so I like to share these experiences so that people understand, especially, young women, young Black women, women of color who are trying to figure out how to fit into corporate environments. That's one of the questions I get a lot. And I thought that, I guess, back in the early 2000s, that was heavy for me, because I'm not one of those politicky type of persons, and I don't want to, try to be close to people for the wrong reasons or rubbing shoulders with this person just because they have a title. Like, I'm not into politics. And so I get that question a lot. People ask me about working in accounting. If you are working as a staff accountant and you want to move up, how do I move up? Or what should I be doing so that my boss notices my work? Things like that. And my answer is always, like I said, do what you know needs to be done and do it better than anybody else. But I always add something, another piece of advice just based on every individual's situation. But I like to share these experiences so that people can, working in professional settings, can hear a perspective of somebody who's been on both sides as the employee and then as a manager of people, and how some of the things I have done as an employee, or some of the things I have said as an employee, now that I've managed people for a lot of years, I would have looked at myself 10 years ago like, really? Like, are you serious right now? So I went through the baptism by fire, and I want to share these experiences so that I can let people know up front what to expect, so that when they get in those situations, that they know how to move accordingly. You don't always have to pop off at everything that somebody says that you don't like. Sometimes you just need to sit back and listen and take it in and really think about what that person is saying. Because a lot of times when I've popped off at people, managers or mentors, for saying things, it was always like, well, to be honest, she's right or he's right. So let me just kind of, fall back and rethink my steps. So yeah, it's a mindset change. It's an attitude shift for the good. And I'm grateful for all of those experiences, the good ones and the bad ones. And if me sharing this is helping somebody else avoid a misstep that I took, then that's it for me. That's all I need. So I thank y'all for listening. There's something about sharing these that just really takes me back to my career. The laughing moments, the fun moments, the crying moments, the fuck it, I'm not doing this no more moments. But I love it, and I wouldn't change any of it. So if you have a career question, I'm happy to answer it for you. So hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. You can DM me at Nick Winston CPA. You can also email me at Nikki at Nick Winston CPA, and I'll respond to you. But thank y'all for listening. I just took a Epsom salt and black pepper bath, and then I started recording this episode, and I didn't put any almond oil or shea butter on, so I'm like dried up and ashy right now. So I gotta go, but I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.